Since the controversial finale in Abu Dhabi, Mercedes hasn't been the same, both Hamilton and the team as a whole. Following that season, their new design approach resulted in 2 seasons of disappointment. Lately, they've struggled to understand and apply the new regulations, failing to develop a successful car concept. In contrast, other teams, especially Red Bull, have adapted well to the rules and created competitive cars. Despite making personnel changes, Mercedes hasn't improved. Fans eagerly anticipated upgrades, only to be disappointed when they didn't translate into better performance. It seems that with each upgrade, Mercedes' performance has worsened. Their recent upgrades have been inconsistent, sometimes hitting the mark but often missing it. As the Miami Grand Prix approaches, Mercedes plans to unveil a big upgrade package. However, they're unsure how much these new parts will help. Since 2022, Mercedes has struggled with various challenges, despite trying some bold changes. Weaknesses still linger at their base in Brackley. James Allison, the technical director, had high hopes for the W15 car before the season began. However, recent months have shown that Mercedes still trails behind Red Bull in competitiveness. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, is a Formula One veteran with over a decade of experience. Yet he's facing one of his toughest periods with the team. It's been rough for Mercedes, especially considering their usual high standards. After 2 disappointing years, things don't seem likely to improve until the new regulations come into play around 2026. Despite Lewis Hamilton's impressive performance in China sprint qualifying and finishing second in the sprint race, it was only a temporary success for Mercedes. However, during the main race in Shanghai, the limitations of the W15 became evident. What's concerning is that the adjustments made by Toto Wolff's team between Saturday and Sunday didn't yield positive results. In fact, Mercedes fell further behind their rivals. Mercedes is currently experiencing a crisis of confidence, and their last-minute adjustments highlight their major weaknesses. Unlike their competitors such as Ferrari and McLaren, Mercedes is struggling to fully understand how these ground effect cars work. The W15 car from Mercedes isn't performing as well as they'd like, and finding the right balance is proving to be quite tricky. It only operates effectively within a narrow range, which is causing problems for both drivers and engineers. As for the upgrades planned for the Miami GP, there's uncertainty about how much of a difference they'll actually make. While they could potentially help, there's no guarantee. Despite this, there's still hope that Mercedes can turn things around and improve their performance. Over the past 2 years, Mercedes has had moments where they thought things were getting better, only to end up disappointed. The improvements they see in wind tunnel testing don't always translate to better performance on the track. In just 5 races, Mercedes has already experimented with different floor setups for the W15 car. These changes weren't part of a planned strategy, but rather a response to unexpected issues with the car's performance. Looking ahead, there's uncertainty about whether the team's upcoming updates, set for a sprint weekend, will solve these issues or create more problems. Mercedes has only scored 52 points so far in the 2024 Constructors' Championship, which is disappointing considering the current F1 rules. After a tough 2023 season, Mercedes had hoped for improvement, but things have actually gotten worse. This has caught the attention of several respected figures, including a Red Bull team advisor. They believe that the Mercedes W15's performance lacks consistency, making it hard to succeed in F1. In the 2024 Constructors' standings, Mercedes has only managed to accumulate 52 points. The experienced advisor pointed out that while the W15 has shown great speed at times, it has also failed to meet expectations on other occasions. Many in the racing community believe that Mercedes' 2024 car has a basic problem that can't be solved. Helmut Marko finds it surprising that Mercedes hasn't been able to repeat the success they had during the turbo hybrid era. Back then, Mercedes dominated F1 with 8 straight Constructors' Championships and numerous drivers' titles, leaving their rivals far behind. With new F1 rules arriving in 2026, there's optimism that Mercedes will overcome their current challenges and make a strong return to the championship fight. Despite Lewis Hamilton finishing second in the China sprint last weekend, Mercedes struggled in the main Grand Prix, falling behind McLaren and Ferrari. Toto Wolff, the team principal, wasn't happy with their performance, saying there were no significant improvements despite their efforts to understand the W15 better. Wolff stressed the need for the team to improve instead of holding on to small moments of hope. He admitted that while there were some positive moments during the weekend, Mercedes needs to take a big step forward. Although they plan to introduce updates for the Miami GP, Wolff admitted that their current position behind Ferrari and Lando Norris is unacceptable. Mercedes started the year feeling positive about the improvements made to its W15 car. Initially, they believed the car had a solid foundation, but identified some weaknesses in high-speed corners. As the season unfolded, the team discovered additional issues with the car, making it challenging to find the perfect setup. Toto Wolff acknowledged that Mercedes had made gains in high-speed performance, notably at Suzuka, but these improvements came at the expense of pace in slower corners. Despite enhancements in certain areas, the overall performance balance suffered, leaving the team with a net zero gain in competitiveness. Mercedes now faces the challenge of integrating solutions to address both high-speed and low-speed performance issues simultaneously. Wolff emphasized the need for improvement and expressed confidence in the team's ability to leverage their understanding of the car's dynamics. Despite the lack of podium finishes this season, Wolff maintains that the current car is not inherently worse than previous iterations, utilizing ground effect technology. Toto Wolff believes that Mercedes may have appeared stronger in comparison to rivals like McLaren and Ferrari when those teams were facing their own performance issues. In the past, McLaren wasn't a significant competitor for the first half of the season, and Ferrari's inconsistency allowed Mercedes to be a podium contender and closest to Red Bull. However, as McLaren and Ferrari have improved their performance levels, the competition has intensified. What was considered good enough for third place last year may now only be sufficient for sixth, due to the relative nature of the sport. Despite these challenges, Wolff acknowledges that the current car is as difficult to handle as previous models, making it tricky for the drivers. Overall, the team is facing similar difficulties as before, with drivers like George Russell finding the car challenging to qualify with. This has become a significant challenge for Toto, testing his leadership and racing expertise like never before. Ross Brawn laid the foundation of the team structure, which Toto inherited, and Niki Lauda provided the racing spirit for years. However, with the loss of Niki and the transition to ground effect regulations, Toto finds himself in uncharted territory. He now must lead the team independently and serve as its sole figurehead. So far, he has struggled to meet these demands, especially as other teams like Red Bull Racing, Aston Martin and McLaren have managed to turn things around. Toto's efforts to instill a certain culture within the team now seem more like complaints and criticisms. With key figures like Voles and Ambrosio gone and Bradley Lord unable to provide the support Toto relied on, he finds himself lacking the level-headed guidance he once had. Despite Toto's business acumen, Mercedes can no longer rely solely on financial advantage for development. While they experienced significant growth in revenue and profitability last year, this advantage has diminished. The real issue with Mercedes may lie in their reliance on data and simulations. While they have clever engineers, they seem to have lost the knack for translating this information into on-track success consistently. This comprehensive understanding of the car and its characteristics has always set legendary figures like Adrian Newey, Ross Brawn, and others apart from the rest. Mercedes' consistent confusion after each race is concerning, especially considering it's been going on for 3 years now. While they may point fingers at various factors like tools, concepts, or tracks, other teams, including Alpine, or now called RBF1 Racing Team, seem to have a better grasp on how to improve. Despite having top engineers, Mercedes still struggles to understand their own car. They seem to be experimenting without a solid foundation to build upon, which is frustrating to see. While many are hopeful for a return to winning form in 2026, recent performances don't support this optimism. Additionally, their power units perform better in their competitive cars than in their own. It's sad to witness both Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton faltering at this stage. Hamilton's confidence seems shattered, and it may take him years to regain the level of confidence needed to compete at the highest level again. Can these upgrades change something, or will it all be the same again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.